Waging war on corruption. Alex Jones on the GCN Radio Network. Big Brother, mainstream media, government cover-ups. You want answers? Well, so does he. He's Alex Jones on the GCN Radio Network. And now, live from Austin, Texas, Alex Jones.
Up on Infowars.com, the ISIS Bucket Obama Challenge. And we have another video. Man dressed as ISIS jihadi crosses border, simulates beheading in a major city. Just to illustrate the border's wide open. But then they've got the TSA groping everybody. The war on terror is a hoax and a fraud. This is meant to expose the hoax, not bolster it. I'm like the progenitor of exposing the war on terror as a hoax day one, not bragging the granddaddy of it. So fools out there going, hey, Al-Qaeda works for the globalists. Yeah, I know, but it's like turning starving pit bulls loose on a bloody child. Just because you run the dogs doesn't mean they're not real. Trying to explain that. It's a globalist destabilization force so people can't live on their own, so they beg for centralized government. Problem, reaction, solution. They try to create anarchy, so you beg for the state, instead of letting natural anarchy through free association grow. Now, Julia, other points that are important to make here. How do you see them striking back? And how do you see Bitcoin making the old system obsolete? Because some could argue that they know the old system's going down, SDR is going to be fiat, that they actually might be behind Bitcoin because they want it to be the new system.
Yeah, I just don't buy it because, you know, it's incredibly difficult. You can't control it. You can't really, it's difficult to censor. And just like imagine doing an audit on Bitcoin. It's very, very difficult, much more difficult than the systems we have in place right now. What they would like is just a pure cashless society where we use credit cards for everything and government issued cards. Bitcoin is outside of that system. So I don't think it's favorable for that kind of, I don't think it fits into that conspiracy theory at all. But regarding the regulation,
I agree with you. I don't think they're behind it. And the fact that its first message was against the banker bailout when it showed up 4 or 5 years ago, I think it's some type of super smart insider who's protesting the whole system.
Yeah, it's, I mean, to say that it's the government conspiracy, I think it's giving governments way too much credibility. I just don't believe it. I think it's an individual or a small group of individuals that are innovative and have had freedom in their intention. And so, but let's talk about the regulation, because this is a big deal right now. The New York State Department of Financial Services and Superintendent Ben Losky, they've proposed a bit license for the state of New York. And it's incredibly overreaching and it stifles innovation. And I like to call it the ban on human interaction, because it defines cryptocurrency very broadly, and it states things like all the companies have to have fingerprints of all of their employees, background checks of people who are using their services. You have to be like your information has to be submitted if you make a transaction that's more than $3,000. It's really insane, and all the companies are actually leaving the state because they can't afford. You have to hire like 3 different regulation officers, compliance officers. So little companies are actually going to be destroyed if they do choose to stay in New York. And this is what happened in England with the automobile regulations. Guess what? America won the automobile race easily because they were so heavily regulated that nobody could do anything. And it's so overreaching that now if anybody wants to transact with a company that is located in New York, they have to fall under those regulations too. So companies are going to have to deny, companies outside of New York are going to actually deny customers that live in New York.
And then people will flee California and New York, come to Texas and act just the same way and ruin it again, not smart enough to know that they shouldn't crap in their own house.
Exactly, Alex. And I have a good friend who's been in the headlines in the Bitcoin community quite a bit, and he had a business, and he's going to be moving to Austin, most likely.
Awesome. Well, we got to get you in studio. Julia Turiansky, thank you so much for spending time with us. The website is bravetheworld.com. Julia Turiansky.
@bravetheworld.
All right, absolutely. BraveTheWorld.com. Thank you so much. All right, we'll be back with the top NSA whistleblower. Stay with us. InfoWars Nightly News is tonight, 7 o'clock Central. Well, a few months ago, it made big news across the world. Here was the headline. The ultimate goal of the NSA is total population control. That's William Edward Binney. He's the former technical leader for intelligence with the NSA. That's at the very top of it. Before becoming a whistleblower in late 2001, after more than 30 years with the agency, Binney has been described as one of the best analysts and code breakers in NSA history. Binney continues to speak out about the NSA's data collection policies and continues interviews in the media. And again, it's amazing that he's so high level and has the courage to speak out despite their attempts to silence him. Exposefacts.org has some of his information there. I wanted to get him on the last few weeks. We're able to get him today because of headlines like this. Snowden, there's a holy S-word smoking gun revelation coming. Whistleblower says government believes he has information that would be the death of them all politically. Well, then please release it because we've got a bunch of totalitarians running things. And he told Wired Magazine that. William Binney just came out with a group that I know is associated with people high up in the government and top analysts like Ray McGovern. Ex-NSA director, U.S. intelligence veterans write open letter to Merkel to avoid all-out Ukraine war. Now the former ambassador to Russia has gone public saying the West is starting the war and has destabilized Ukraine. That's just the truth. So I want to get William Binney's breakdown on that. Also want to talk to him about parallel construction where other agencies like the DEA are using NSA data totally illegally and then creating fake court cases so the courts don't know where they got the data. This is just beyond 1984. So that's some of what we'll talk about in the next hour. Coming up at the bottom of the hour, we've got your questions that you're tweeting to Real Alex Jones. We put a hashtag out there so you can tweet your questions to William Binney. We'll also take a few phone calls, specific questions for him. 800-259-9231. 800-259-9231. Specific questions for William Binney. Mr. Binney, you heard me throw out that grouping of questions. Would you like to answer one of those first, or what do you think is most important that's currently happening right now?
Well, to me, what NSA, all the data NSA is collecting and being used by the police forces is really the most threatening situation to our constitutional republic since the Civil War. So to me, that's the most important thing, because it affects everything we do. It involves everything that everybody in the country is doing. So I mean, that's contrary to the founding documents of this nation.
Well, you're absolutely right. Last year, we were given secret documents from Homeland Security sources in Seattle. They were putting up their own cell towers, letting the local police even have access to it, grabbing everyone's data. Now I see headlines in CBS News, you name it, going, no one knows what the mystery cell towers are, but it's not the government because it's illegal to do that. I mean, we know what's going on. Can you speak to that?
Well, I think that's part of that is gathering information on movement of individuals. I mean, that's how you can track people moving around, by basically putting up false towers and getting everybody to ping off your tower. That way you know they're in the area. And you can monitor who they are and map them over time by the machine access codes that they have and the phone numbers and things. So it's not a matter of it's not a matter of them guessing anymore. They just track everybody, and it'd be a simple problem to align them, with a program, compile them, and track everybody individually. And all you have to do is point to them and say, "Where have you been for the last month or two?" And you can see what you've been doing.
That's right. It's so good to talk to somebody that knows all of this and knows more than I even know, because I mean, I look at what's open source public every day. A decade ago, the British put these up in London as a beta test, as you know. They also did it in Berlin. They tracked everybody in real time for years. It's totally illegal. Now they're building this grid at billions of dollars of expense for their own internal communication system as well. Cameras, microphones, live time tracking of the cell phones. And then when the public says, what are these? They go, gee, we don't know.
Yeah, right. Yeah, if you believe that, I have a bridge to sell you.
Exactly. Crazy. Wow. Tell folks what parallel construction is, and why did you, I mean, obviously you can't talk about a lot of it, but why did you leave the NSA when you were one of the top people, one of the directors of it?
Well, I left in October of 2001 because they started spying on everybody and assembling information on everyone in the United States, and it went first with phone numbers and then went into the internet.